reigning out of Sword Japan with a fight record of 56-22, a 72% win rate. Also representing Thailand, Jaosuayai.
Jaosuayai is a switch hitter of the most dangerous variety. The rising One Championship star began his professional Muay Thai campaign at only 7 years old, with his family only learning about his competitive aspirations during his pro debut. He carried on to help support his family, inspired by martial arts films and watching the sport with his father. The 23-year-old action fighter is experienced beyond his years and has over 120 fights on his resume. And after making waves through the stadium circuit and the K1 Grand Prix, he joined One Championship's Muay Thai flyweight roster, competing at 135 pounds. In only 10 promotional showings, Jaosuayai has become must-watch TV for fans of excitement and excellence alike. That's because he wears his action movie inspirations on his gloves, wowing crowds with jaw-dropping airborne offense and sleeping pill knockout power. Plus, Jaosuayai chases the finish like a madman, and if all else fails, he's willing to march into the fire to pull out a win. Bottom line, Jaosuayai is consistently looking for the knockout blow, and crowds absolutely love him for it. But what's really interesting on a technical level is that his style usually confuses the opposition before concussing them. Jaosuayai is a master of fighting from both Orthodox and Southpaw, and he blends them in a way that disguises and supports his most brutal offense. And under all of that incredible spectacle is a deep mastery of dual stance fighting and top-tier positional awareness. On a personal note, this is one of the coolest breakdowns I've ever worked on during my years with the channel, because it's the first time I've gotten to see a fighter compete live while I'm actively investigating their style. One Championship invited us out to watch One Fight Night 32, with Jaosuayai in the main event against his toughest test to date, the number 5 ranked Nakrob. Of course I said yes, for multiple reasons. For one, the historic Lumpini Stadium is only a motorbike away from my condo, and two, I was probably gonna attend anyway. So, it was an absolute honor to sit alongside the other outlets covering the event, and shout out to One Championship for their hospitality. But before we get to the fantastic event, let's get back to the breakdown. A key component for Jaosuayai's style is that he's an elite operator from both Orthodox and Southpaw. Unlike some fighters that favor one side or the other, Jaosuayai is able to attack and defend from both stances. To prove this, he's able to fight the entirety of some rounds by sticking to a single stance. But even as well-rounded as his offense is, he still has some favorite weapons from each stance. Jaosuayai is extremely dangerous from the Orthodox stance. He's just as likely to dive in with blitzing combinations as he is to hit a nasty left hook on the retreat. In addition, Jaosuayai isn't afraid to sit in the pocket if he thinks he has a chance to connect. Plus, his lead hook is absolute dynamite. The young Thai star also touts an impressive jab that he uses for range keeping and setups. And since he pushes off the ground with nearly every strike, his jab can hit like a piston too. Jaosuayai can spin his way into a jab, use it alongside stance switches, or skillfully poke out the lead hand to kick off an exchange, like in this combination that put Yodlepet to the ropes. From Southpaw, Jaosuayai's sharpest weapon is the lead uppercut. He constantly hits it. Often throwing it alongside a left hook, either before or after. He also has an excellent check left hook. And just like from Orthodox, Jaosuayai can cover multiple spheres of offense from Southpaw. For example, here he is against Paidang, where he goes from pressing with big impacts to retreating, all the while moving slightly outside with each step to find the angle for his Southpaw weapons. Regardless which stance he takes, he generates a ton of power in almost every strike he throws. These demolitions are a direct result of his footwork and his ability to fight in both stances. Aside from marching forward and dragging his feet into combinations like he does here, Jaosuayai manufactures KOs with a couple small details. Check out this KO sequence. Jaosuayai presses himself into every strike in this combination. What's crazy is how little contact with the canvas it takes for him to radically alter his angle for the left hook. When he chooses to plant his feet, Jaosuayai's wide stance really comes into play. Since he can fight Southpaw or Orthodox, he tends to go a bit square when he's on the inside. This is ideal for whipping his weight into punches like he did in the rematch with Pat Sukhumvit.
Clean on the jaw for a knockdown in the second round, but make no mistakes about it, he was in trouble.
Or this right hand. Notice how much Jaosuayai slams his weight into his lead leg to follow through. Jaosuayai can also throw multiple weapons from the same side, like this switch left hand to left leg kick. This unorthodox tactic is probably the least tricky thing Jaosuayai does, but it still managed to look like a masterclass when he uses stance switches not simply to double up, but triple up on attacks from the same side. Here, he manages 3 right side attacks and mixes up the timing to delay the right push kick. So Jaosuayai is a true KO threat from either stance. But what really complicates matters is his ability to dance between the two at almost any time. Whether he's starting a switch entry, changing mid-combination, or simply switching stances just to feint, he is heaping defensive calculations on the opponent. He switches in a few specific ways, and since he launches different attacks off very similar entries, things can go from uncertain to plain unsafe really quick. Jaosuayai consistently uses the step through to change stances. When he does it slowly, he'll also lift his leg like he's preparing to check a kick. But he's just as able to fire off kicks of his own during the shift. The other interesting aspect of Jaosuayai's step through is the way he loads his weight on the base leg. He'll either explode off the base leg like he does in this combination, or use it in conjunction with the momentum of swinging his lead leg forward, showcased by this step-through hook. Circling back to this clip from his fight with Yodlepet, See how Jaosuayai launches himself into the rear hook off the step. Jaosuayai doesn't need to move forward to change stances either. He's very comfortable switching things up with a backward step. One of my favorite sequences is this one, where he utilizes a back step to gain extra space on the exit. Even when skirmishes are in full swing, Jaosuayai uses the backward shift with an absolute mastery. The last footwork pattern I'll cover here might be the coolest one. Notice this step into a narrowing, short-lived stance switch before he leaps into the air. This bouncing pseudo-switch is the most common launchpad for his flying attacks, even the ones that don't quite land. The troubling thing for Jaosuayai's opposition is that he uses the same narrow bounce for hyper-explosive, land-based offense as well. So if you're standing across from him, you're unsure what will be headed your way. Here, he uses it to set up a flying kick against Petsukhumvit. And then again, from the same fight, here he is using it to set up a stout jab. And again, Jaosuayai is pushed back by a kick. He then leaps forward into a complex step-through punch combination. So clearly Jaosuayai is hyper-lethal from either stance, and he knows how to blend the two stances in a way that makes things complex and confusing. If it wasn't clear from what we've covered already, Jaosuayai's complete mastery of both stances and the footwork that links them gives him next level feinting ability. He'll bounce between stances just to back away, perform false step-throughs to move the opponent into power shots, and spin just for the heck of it. But the reason these feints work is that Jaosuayai is just as likely to turn that bounce into a flurry, or turn that crazy spin into a jab or kick. He can really rack opponents with swirling, fearful anticipation. The other thing you'll notice about Jaosuayai is that he doesn't require much time to reset at all. This helps him really launch himself into his offense without worrying too much about how he's standing when the dust settles. Plus, he's able to immediately follow up after leaping through the air, which is typically a major drawback of flying weapons. Or he's able to freely build space and only settle into a stance when the moment is right for impact. In fact, he's ready to let loose with kicks or punches with almost every step. Seen in this highlight, where he doesn't feel like he'll land the kick, so he just uses it to step and hit an intercepting uppercut. The last thing we'll cover is a mix of technical details and simply some things that make Jaosuayai fun to watch. His deep understanding of position, and where certain weapons will work, make him a true threat at almost every moment of the round. Jaosuayai will make real-time adjustments to his stance, altering the lead side to whichever angles are better for an attack. He'll do this while advancing or retreating. My favorite examples are when he's moving against the ropes. Against an opponent trying to cut him off, Jaosuayai can switch stances so that his open side is to the center of the ring. This gives him more space to escape, but it also grants him the angle to fire off close-range weapons if the opponent is overeager. Since Jaosuayai can move in whichever stance is most advantageous in the moment, his exits are really something to behold. In this clip, Jaosuayai dives forward with a lead hook and turns into a one-legged orthodox stance before stepping back into southpaw. Or he can exit with a lateral shift. He can even turn shift as he moves to counter against the ropes. Even if he's under fire, Jaosuayai can remain calm and find routes to damage. Here, for example, he's retreating, but stops short to time his opponent with a lead uppercut that puts them on their heels. Another example of his comfort in heated exchanges, here is his absolute bomb on Suryanlek. Stuck in a spot where most fighters would be overwhelmed, Jaosuayai finds a rocket of a right to floor his foe. Notice how he bounces off the ropes and then crashes into Suryanlek just to create enough space for the right hand. So, back to the actual event, One Fight Night 32. I woke up on Saturday morning, made my way to the stadium, excited for a morning of premier combat sports. Arriving at the stadium, I was greeted by the One Championship belt and the iconic Lumpini Stadium emblem. I entered the venue to find a packed stadium of fight fans, as ready for the ceremonies to start as I was. The event was action-packed and featured some pretty major upsets if you had money on young prospects. But before I knew it, the main event was ready to begin, and the crowd erupted as Jaosuayai entered the arena. The crowd even chanted as Jaosuayai was preparing to enter the ring. Considering that Fight Night 32 is a primetime show on Amazon, this event was clearly a showcase for Jaosuayai to shine in front of a global audience. And for those watching in the arena or around the world, he made a great impression.
With a fight record of 59 wins and 22 losses, a 73% win rate, representing
He showed big power, a jumping kick, and one of the sickest head kick KOs I've seen in a long time. And to get to see it in the arena made it that much more special. In only 52 seconds of total mayhem, Jaosuayai dispatched the number 5 flyweight contender and announced himself as a major player in the division. Jaosuayai's dynamic and unpredictable style is one of the most interesting I've seen in a near lifetime of watching combat sports. The way he melds technical brilliance with reckless abandon creates a different level of misdirection, one where misreading the cues might spell disaster. But the thing that makes it all possible is his combative fluency regardless of which stance he takes, giving him a full repertoire of angles, weapons, and defenses with every change of his stance. This requires years and years of drilling and dedication, things that Jaosuayai is no stranger to, considering that he took a full year of drilling the flying knee in the gym before he ever tried it out in the ring. Going to One Championship show was an absolute blast, and getting to watch a fighter that I'm currently studying was somewhat surreal. So, once again, massive thank you to One Championship for having us all out at the event. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been Coby McKinley, wishing you happy training.
Cozy.